going over mind over over body, and mind over matter. And this is all from like a perspective of how to rehabilitate or use these concepts of meditation for rehabilitation. All right, so the first part is, I'm going to go over the screen actors metaphor again for people that weren't here. So my metaphor for the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is the screen actors metaphor. And what I said last time is that you have all these thoughts in your head and everything that you see in your mind, and it's like a giant screen project with a movie playing on it. So you have all these things going on your screen. And what meditation does is it allows you to step back behind the screen and kind of see the problems that are going on between the director and the producer and stagehands and everybody that's involved in making the movie. So that's where you can get with meditation, but tonight I'm going to kind of talk about how you can start to interact with the people behind the movie, how to talk to the producer and the director and resolve issues between the actors, so the movie that you have ends up being much better of a movie. Okay, so mind over mind. So once you get back there, basically the concept is, how do we get back there, and how do we start interacting with the people that are involved in making the movie? So the conscious mind is like a massive sea with just crashing waves all over the place. And the subconscious mind is what is below the sea. And the hardest thing to do is to calm your mind enough, just calm all your thoughts and calm all the crazy emotions and everything that are running through your mind, to the point where you can actually peer down through the ocean and see what lies below the surface. This is accomplished through, quiet, still practices, and oftentimes a way to control your thoughts is, I kind of lost track of where I was. Okay, so for good meditation, to like really get into that state where you can actually go back into your subconscious mind and really interact with your subconscious mind and have a positive effect on what your subconscious mind does. There are a few things that you need. The first thing is focus. And last time I went over the focus meditation, which is where there are several focus meditations. The one I went over is called, well, it doesn't really have a name, but so you take your first letter of your first name, picture it in your mind, focus on it. And you focus on it, and slowly over time you begin to increase the amount of time that you focus on the first letter of your name. And the goal of this is to maintain complete focus on the first letter of your name in your mind without allowing the letter to like warp at all or change shapes or change colors. So you pick a color, and you stick with that color, and you focus on it. Other focus meditations are like focusing on a candle flame or whatever, drawing a dot on a piece of paper and focusing on that. As long as you stay focused on it, it's going to increase your focus time. So over time, you slowly increase the amount of time that you can focus. And when you get up to about 30 minutes, your concentration is far beyond what most people's are at. And the second one that you need, so you need focus, you need discipline. There are discipline meditations. Last time I went over the countdown, so you count down from 10, and you hit 0. You make up your mind that the second you hit 0, you do whatever you're supposed to be doing instead of sitting on the couch. Then there's mental energy. Okay, so instead of, like, mental energy is like physical energy. It's not, I'm not talking about anything like superstitious right now. It's basically just keeping your mind keeping proper nutrition, going to your mind, making sure you read books, just keeping your mind physically and mentally healthy. And then the next one is keeping a healthy mind. And this is accomplished by doing meditations and interacting with your subconscious and like alleviating all the problems that you have in your subconscious. So everybody's had problems in their childhood or has stresses in their lives. And so what you want to do is get to that point where you can relieve and alleviate the tensions and problems that you've experienced in your past and just kind of fine-tune your subconscious so that it deals with certain situations better, and so that the person that you project is the person that you want to project. So the first thing is to clear your conscious mind of negative thoughts. We all have crazy thoughts that arise in our mind, and just like random thoughts don't necessarily come from you, okay? It's just the workings of the brain, how the brain works and processes information. And sometimes the thoughts can get pretty bizarre, and everybody, you want to, like, you think, where did that thought come from? Or that's a retarded thought, or why am I even thinking this thought, and want to kick it out of your mind? Well, for addiction, obviously this is an addictive thought. You start to think, oh, that would be nice if I could use right now, or, you know, start drinking again, one beer's not going to hurt kind of stuff. And this is what leads to relapse, is dwelling on these thoughts. There's two things I want to talk about when you're fighting with thoughts. The first one is the brunt approach, where the thought arises and it has an amount of energy with it, and it's a forceful thought, and you try to like face it head on. The problem with that is, if you think about how that works in the physical world, if you get in a fight with somebody and you try to like take them head on, you know, every time they throw a punch at you, you hold your hand out and try to like block their punch straight on, you're going to end up hurting your hand and you're going to lose the fight. I've also heard psychologists say that the way to get rid of unwanted thoughts is to play the thought through. So instead of like trying to kick the thought out of your mind, you kind of almost indulge in the thought and you play it through until the outcome, and they say like as you play it through and then all the way to the negative outcome, then it ends up not being like you realize what the outcome is, and it stops you from wanting to do whatever the thought is. But I think that's kind of stupid, because first of all, you're taking this thought in and you're allowing it to process through the mind, which just gives it power. So about 6 months ago, I was contemplating this. I was having some urges to use, and the thoughts just kept arising in my mind even though I didn't want them to. So I meditated on this, and I realized something that has completely changed the last 6 months of my life. And this is a concept that your thought is its own entity, and the energy that it arises with is completely separate. So you have a thought where you want to go use some drugs, and basically, okay, everybody's experienced where a thought arises in your mind, and sometimes it's a little puny thought, not a lot of energy, and you can just squish it and kick it out of the way. And sometimes the thought arises to go use, and it arises with a lot of force, and it's like your heart starts racing, you know, you're getting all these like feelings in your body where, oh, dude, I really want to go use, and it's really powerful. And so it dawned on me that the thought is completely separate from the energy it comes up with. And as I thought about this, I started to think about martial arts. And the concept, well, a major concept of martial arts is when somebody throws a punch at you or comes at you with their energy, okay, your opponent might not be, well, your opponent is completely separate from the energy he's using. So he's there, but he's using kinetic energy to come at you with a punch. Now, as he comes at you with a punch, like I said before, if you try to block it head on, it's just going to hurt your hand. But in martial arts, the concept is to use your opponent's energy against them. So as he comes at you with a punch, you grab his arm and pull him, move out of the way and pull him and follow through, and he will actually pretty much defeat himself. Like all you have to do is kind of step out of the way and pull his arm through, and he's over. You know, he comes at you again, you keep doing it, and he's not going to win. The same applies to thoughts. And this is something I've been using for the past 6 months, and it has like radically changed how I handle my addiction. So what you want to do is I started off visualizing it. So the second I had a thought of, you know, cocaine or heroin or whatever, I would imagine that thought as it arose with, as an opponent with about equal amount of force as the thought arose with. So as the thought arose, I would imagine it as this opponent, and then I would do this mental sparring, and it was a total visual thing. But after I did it for about a month or two, I began to realize that I could pull it down from that like large visualization construct to a more like on the thought level kind of construct. I can't really explain how that part works, but what I can explain is the visual part, okay? So continue to do the visual part, where you visualize the thought or the feeling or the emotion or the desire coming up as a physical being, and you visualize the entire sparring thing, and you visualize him swinging at you, you pulling his arm, knocking him into a building, anything like that. So you completely cream this dude in your mind. By the time the fight's over and he's a bloody pulp on the ground, your addiction, like that desire, is completely gone. Okay. And as you continue to do that, it seems to dumb down from visual level to a more like, I don't know, like mental level where you don't have to visualize it. You guys know what I'm saying? So that has been such an insanely awesome technique for me that I can't even describe it. It's like, since I've been using it, my thoughts to use as they arise come with less and less and less energy. It's to the point now to where it's like, really? You're really trying to tempt me now? Like, get out of here. You're retarded. So that has been a really, really, really powerful method for me. Okay, the second thing with keeping your mind healthy is feeding it positive thoughts. So, like positive affirmations, you try to see everything in a positive light. You try to see everything in a, you know, just see everything the way you want to see it. Now, I'll get into this a little bit later. Okay, so mind over body. That was mind over mind, mind over body. So there's been a lot of reports of a lot of like meditation practitioners that have been able to do some pretty bizarre feats with their own body. One of them is, I've read a lot about a lot of people that are actually able to slow their bodily processes down to a point where they would be considered medically dead. Like if you took their vital signs, you know, everything would be pretty much gone. And they can do this for about a week, 2 weeks in a row without any food or water. So obviously, it is possible to completely control your body, control your heart rate, control, you know, how your body absorbs nutrition, everything like that. So the concept of mind over body is a very real concept. It's not like, you know, some fantastic thing that only happens in movies. I want to talk about a story I heard about a while back, and I had to look it up online to actually find the reference of what was going on and read the true story. There's a man named Albert Mason and one of his partners, Dr. Moore. They worked at the Victoria Hospital in England. And what happened was Dr. Mason was a medical practitioner, but he had read a few studies about some people being able to cure warts through hypnosis. So this kid comes walking into his office, and he's got just these horrible warts on both arms. Like, slightly infected, disgusting, both arms totally starting to go black a little bit. And he decides to try hypnosis out on this kid. So he lays the kid down, gives him a few suggestions, hypnotizes him, tells him that his right arm will be free of warts within a couple of weeks, okay? A couple weeks go by, the kid comes back to the office, and his arm's completely healed of warts. And he gets all excited, you know, and he runs over to his partner, Dr. Moore. And Dr. Moore was in the operating room at the time. And he holds the kid's arms up in the window that goes into the operating room. And Dr. Moore's face just like drops, like he couldn't believe what he sees. And he immediately washes up, exits the operating room, and walks over to Dr. Mason, and he's like, "Those weren't warts." Dr. Mason's like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, what he had was called congenital ichthyosis, I believe it's called. And apparently it's a completely uncurable thing. So the power of suggestion is so powerful that it can actually, I mean, and this is like one of like many cases